I'm on the moon. I'm on the moon. And the excitement, the wonder, the thrill, the adventure are of it all. At 89 years old, Apollo astronaut Charles Duke is finally breaking his silence about what he witnessed on the moon, and it's not the story you've been told. Duke's place in history is unlike anyone else's. He's the voice who guided Neil Armstrong to that first step from mission control and later the youngest human to leave footprints on the lunar surface. After decades of watching Apollo 16 fade into the shadows of more famous missions, Duke is ready to share the unfiltered truth. But the question is, what exactly has NASA overlooked for more than 50 years? The funny thing about Charles Duke is that before he ever set foot on the moon, the world already knew his voice. Millions of people watching the Apollo 11 broadcast heard him speak from mission control in Houston with his thick southern drawl, steady but full of emotion. When Armstrong announced, "The Eagle has landed," it was Duke who replied, "Roger, tranquility, we copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We are breathing again." That single line made him part of history before his boots ever touched lunar dust. And yet Duke wasn't the one getting the ticker tape parade. He wasn't the man planting a flag. He was the invisible astronaut, the voice in the background guiding giants while quietly waiting for his own chance. That dual role shaped him in ways few people appreciate today. Think about it, when you're Capcom, you are the lifeline between Earth and space. Every word you speak is filtered through the pressure of millions of viewers, every slip or hesitation magnified. And for Apollo 11, there was zero room for error. Duke carried that weight in his voice. And when Armstrong and Aldrin touched down safely, he shared in their triumph, not as a passenger, but as a guardian. But that role came with a strange psychological twist. Imagine being the calm guide who talks humanity through its greatest leap while knowing you're still stuck on the ground. You live the mission in your bones, but from the wrong side of the glass. Duke later admitted that the tension of those moments never left him. He wasn't just a voice. He was a participant who had to hold back the deepest urge to be there himself. That's what makes his later mission so unusual. Unlike Armstrong, Collins, or Aldrin, Duke didn't just carry the memory of walking on the moon, he carried the double vision of being both earthbound and moonbound, of being the one who steadied voices trembling in space, and the one who later heard his own voice echoing inside a helmet on another world. And here's the part that gets overlooked, no other living astronaut has quite this perspective. Duke is the only man who was both the emotional anchor of Apollo 11 and the explorer of Apollo 16. His words from Houston were replayed worldwide, his southern drawl recognized across continents. Yet he remained a name few could place to a face, invisible until he wasn't. In recent interviews, Duke has opened up about what that duality really meant. He said guiding Armstrong and Aldrin felt like being a father watching his kids take their first steps. When he finally got to walk on the moon himself, he couldn't help but compare the experience, seeing firsthand what he once only imagined from mission data and grainy video feeds. That contrast gave him an insight nobody else could claim. For decades, he kept most of these reflections quiet, overshadowed by the bigger names and louder stories. But now, in his late 80s, Duke is finally breaking the silence. And it matters because his story isn't about aliens or lost civilizations, it's about how being both the invisible witness and the hands-on explorer makes him the ultimate lunar guide. So, when he tells us today that we missed something about the moon, it isn't just another astronaut reminiscing, it's a man with two vantage points, finally stitching them together. But here's the cliffhanger, when Duke finally reached the lunar surface, what he saw wasn't what he had prepared for in all those long hours in Houston. It didn't match the simulations, the data, or even the stories Armstrong and Aldrin had brought back. His experience challenged everything he thought he knew about our celestial neighbor. The question that needs to be asked is, what did Charles Duke see on the moon that made him speak out now before time runs out? When Charles Duke finally stepped out of the lunar module on Apollo 16, he expected to see the moon precisely the way he had trained for: grey dust, jagged rocks, and endless emptiness. But what hit him first wasn't the surface, it was the sky, or rather, the absence of it. Imagine standing outside at night looking up at the stars. Now, strip the stars away. Strip the faint glow. Strip even the suggestion of atmosphere. Above Duke's helmet wasn't just darkness, it was a black so absolute it felt like falling into nothing. He called it an incredible contrast, the deepest black sky against the almost blinding brightness of the lunar surface. Photographs never captured it, he said, because no camera could balance that range. To the human eye, the difference was staggering. That revelation stuck with him for decades. On Earth, your vision adjusts between shadows and sunlight, but on the moon, the sharp divide never faded. Every boulder looked crisp, as if etched with a knife. Every shadow cut like an ink line on paper. Duke later admitted that people looking at the Apollo photos assumed that's the full picture. In truth, the cameras flattened what was overwhelming in person. What he saw was a reality that no photograph could honor. And here's the twist that still surprises people: they couldn't even see Earth. The most iconic image we think of, the blue marble hanging over a barren horizon, wasn't visible at all from where Apollo 16 landed. The Earth was directly overhead, positioned out of sight. Duke explained that if he tried to look up, all he saw was the inside of his helmet. The suit design blocked the very view most of us imagine as the highlight of being there. Think about that. Humanity assumes every moonwalker spent hours staring at Earthrise, overwhelmed by the beauty of home hanging in the void. In reality, Apollo 16's crew couldn't see it without craning awkwardly backward, which was impossible in the stiff suits. Duke said it bluntly: looking straight up, you were looking at the opaque side of your helmet. The most poetic scene in pop culture never existed for him. This is why he's speaking out now. He wants people to understand the truth, not the myth. The moon wasn't a glossy postcard, it was brutal, stark, and limited by the very technology that kept them alive. The helmet itself narrowed their world. With a field of view like a fishbowl, Duke could see forward, but not up or around without twisting his entire body. Peripheral vision was gone. That meant exploring the lunar surface wasn't just awe-inspiring, it was clumsy and disorienting. He described trying to survey a ridge while fighting against a suit that refused to let him turn his head naturally. It wasn't the free panoramic sweep we see in documentaries. It was a struggle inside hardware designed for survival, not comfort. Yet even within those limits, the emotional weight was crushing. Duke said the incredible contrast between black and white wasn't just visual, it felt spiritual.